And as I'm thinking about that, I have a feeling I may be sharing this wrong. Okay, hold on a second, y'all. Okay, here we go. Okay. So, I'm just kind of calling this a fair housing primer, but we are going to focus specifically on rooms and some things that may be something that you may run into. And the landlord really is the one that'll run into this where they say, "My gosh, that room is not that big, you know." Um, so how can I let someone in there? So we're going to talk about familial status and does the house match the tenant? Service and emotional support animals are not pets. I think you guys know this, but I've got some new information that I want to pass along to you. So the first thing is understanding occupancy standards in the state of Virginia. They regulate the number of occupants per the dwelling, but also space and configuration can determine how many can be in there as well. What is it that we have usually used as a guideline?
Two
Like
people
two
per
per
room.
room?
Two per room. One more thing. Two per bedroom and one and then plus one for the general living area. So if you look at this floor plan right here, all right, we've got a dining room, we've got a bedroom, another bedroom on the bottom, and then we've got a bathroom on the left side, and then this is the dining area. So I guess this is a balcony on the outside out here on the top. So the question would be, I got a one bedroom, two bedroom, and I got a greater area. Does this qualify for four people or does it qualify for five people? And what I've came across in my continuing ed this last week was that it's actually like, well, it depends. And so that's an interesting thing. So generally you're going to hear me talk about if you got one person, you got to have a one bedroom, you got to have 70 square feet. So a 7 by 10 or an 8 by 9 or something like that. You got to have a room that big. And then when you enter a second person, there has to be 50 square feet per person in that dwelling. So the room would need to be what? How many square feet?
100.
100, exactly. So then I got a few rooms here I picked up off of a website that was pretty cool. So this is a 7 by 10. So we got a twin bed, little window, closet, door in there. So that's a one bedroom. And this one is I have a 95 square foot room. They're tossing it out there, and this website is, yeah, this is big enough for two people. I mean, it's debatable who's going to come in and measure and say, oh, you're off 5 square feet. Probably that's going to work. A 9.5 by 10. And then this one is a 10 by 10.5. So it's 105 square feet. This one is a standard bedroom, 11 by 12. This is probably what in most dwellings you're going to see rooms about 11 by 11 or 11 by 12. And this is where also if you go back here, I've seen people take a den and make a bedroom out of it. And they can. They can do that. So they'll have a one bedroom and then they'll have a den and then they'll use that as a bedroom. And then we have the standard bedroom of 132 square feet. And I think the biggest one we have in this one is, 144 square feet. And then you get in these large houses where the bedroom's made over the living room. And, the room is like 400 square feet. It's a 20 by 20 room. So not unusual to see that as well. So it's 400 square feet. Can you put four people in there? Probably put four kids in there, a couple of bunk beds. It's big enough. You just got to configure it. So the other piece of this, though, is just a reminder that these are the generic guidelines when we're talking about. So here was a case that came in my class. It was the case study of the family of five. In two cases, one applied for a two-bedroom apartment, the other one applied for a two-bedroom mobile home. And so it's very interesting. They said the size of the bedrooms determine whether a no reasonable cause is appropriate, meaning there's no reasonable cause for us to believe they were discriminating based on familial status. And so there we go. So mobile home may be too small to allow two people per room. So it could be that a park manager or a landlord could say, I'm sorry, that's just not big enough. It's a 7 by 7 room, and that's not big enough for two people, but it is a bedroom, and the other one's only 10 by 10. So, or 8 by 9 or whatever. So it's barely big enough for one person. So can you allow three people to go in there? That's size of rooms criteria. So now let's make it even a little more confusing. What about the age of the kids? Can three people share a one bedroom apartment? Two adults with an infant child, and then the rules permit the two bedroom plus one. That would work. Again, there is a little bit of a judgment call here that the landlord has to make because, and this is from my CE class, if it's a teenager and it's a bigger kid, we can say, hey, you know what? This is not going to be large enough for this family of three to come in here, or this group of three. I got two parents and a teenager. He's 15 years old, big kid. It's not really big enough. And they can safely say, this is not large enough. So let me ask you this. How would you handle the it's not large enough complaint when an agent or an agency says, but the law says, what are you going to say? Calling Anthony's not what I want you to say.
Are you saying that so there's three people in a one bedroom, and what I'm hearing you say is that it depends on the age of that third person. The two can be an adult, but it depends on the age
It
of
can
the
be. And that was kind of like the aha to me is that okay, I can have a one bedroom when normally I've got a husband and a wife and a child that is like a toddler. That's okay. But in the CE class, they said, well, what the law really is looking at is kind of like common sense. You know, you wouldn't put three adults in a one bedroom house because the the um the size of the house and the configuration of the house is just not reasonable for the parents and teenage son to share a one bedroom apartment or for college kids to come in to a one bedroom and say, well, the law says two per bedroom plus one. I'll just set up in the living room. It would depend on the setup of the house. So two bedroom with a den could fulfill the 5 person guideline. Uh, Forget the floor plan here, but this two bedroom with no study or den could be determined to not provide sufficient space for 5 people. Two people here looks like a pretty small bedroom. If that's only a 7 by 10, that's not really big enough for two people. So it'd be two, one, and then do you have enough space in here? If this living room was an actual separate room, let's say that you went through here and you went to an actual living room, then yeah. What I'm trying to make sure we see is a lot of this is judgment call and it's math, you know. So you want to make sure you're getting the measurements out on what that can be. We've had to, this is particularly an issue when we get into older housing, like Arlington, in DC, where you get into a two bedroom dwelling, and one of those bedrooms is a 7 by 7, and then the other one is a 10 by 8. It's barely big enough for two people, much less three. But when you talk about how many kids am I going to have in there, how many adults, you can then say you can't put 4 people in there. Sorry, it can really only hold three. Okay.
So what is acceptable to say to somebody when they
I
want
was
to
just going to say, yeah.
do it? Because I've been telling people I'm like, I don't want to waste your time. It's an
Yeah.
itty bitty room. I don't think it's going to fulfill your needs, but I don't.
Right. And that's where I would use the terminology. Well, the building code is this right here. It's got to be, the building code says it's got to be 70 square feet for one person. And if there's a second person, it's got to be 50 square feet each. So this room does not qualify to have two people in it. That's what I would say. Okay. Does that make sense? I know that's a nerve-wracking thing to just say that,
Well,
but
out of curiosity, if someone is renting your property
mhm,
and you're the landlord and they rented it with a then toddler and then had another, or the toddler grows up, they continue to rent there. At some point,
mhm.
can do you? At some point, would the landlord say, they're out of the age bracket or
Yeah,
something,
that
or
and see that's the challenge of this law. There's no, oh, by the way, once the kid hits 11, or is
is
it
there an
like, well, once
age?
a kid is like 5'5", they're not given that kind of detailed guidance.
Okay.
Um, but but then as a landlord that has 4 units or more in Virginia, I could see them being a little nervous in saying, "Hey, Bob, Becky, your son's now 16 and you got a little boy and it's 2 bedroom, but that one bedroom's only a 7 by 10 and one's a girl and one's a boy." Now they're having a really difficult discussion that I think they'd be okay, but who wants to say, I think you'll be okay? You want to be able to
Yeah.
kind of stop that rental before it happens.
I'll tell you what I said when it happened with my tenant. I said, I think it's time for you to buy something.
Yeah, that's
Well, that
good.
too. That
Yeah.
too.
And I sold him a house.
Yeah. Because people want to say, I've had someone might say, well, that sounds discriminatory. I said, look, the building code's the building code.
No, that's yeah.
God, go ahead.
Citing the building code is a safe harbor from the perspective of it has nothing to do with any protected class. It's
Right.
the law.
And what we're talking about really here is familial status. I have children. I got 3 kids. The law says I can have 2 per bedroom. That's 5 people and plus. Well, it depends on the size of the 2 bedroom. And so that's where you just have to be, gently and but firmly say, look, the building code is this. This is a small rental. But you probably don't want to put that in your remarks. Just wait till the applications come in and weigh the facts with the applicant because you got twins or 2 small kids, yeah, it's fine. They can go into a 2 bedroom house and there's not a problem there. It's just when you get into this weird world of like we had someone that was 2 bedroom and it was mom and dad and grandmother and teenager. And so, okay, well, I guess you can live the way you want to live, but that just doesn't seem. But
It's
what's our
linked.
challenge?
Yeah, it's
We have no housing. They're
Well,
fine with it for
they may not
now.
have any,
Yeah,
and they may not have any choice. They may have such a limited income that,
right,
that they're just forced to deal with it.
right.
and that scenario creates a situation where if you're well, that's inciting building code, even though that necessarily wouldn't apply in that situation. It raises the specter that, well, your issue is actually the way this family happens to live together,
Hmm.
and that's yeah, that's why I don't like
Well,
rentals.
yeah. Well, and it's like my issue, or I'm putting over I'm laying my value system over the thing. That's where I'm like, let's just go back to let's just go back to the building code.
Yeah,
That room's not big enough for 2 adults. You need 2 people. You need 100 square feet. You need a 10 by 10. It's an 8 by 9. Not big enough. And now you're using the building code as a means of making a judgment because what came in on that was also let me see. Because the argument was on this one, I may not have put it in here, but it's for the landlord to make a judgment call on, look, I got to protect my investment too. And 5 and 6 people on this is just too many people.
Anthony, in your CE,
Here
was
it
there
is right
any?
here. I'm sorry.
Go
Three
ahead.
bedroom, if large enough, could house 7 to 8 people without jeopardizing the investor's investment. if there's like I got a 3 bedroom, but I got a full basement and I have a living room and a dining room. Now you take one of these little, 1945 houses, I got a 3 bedroom, I got a living and dining L and it's one level. So this is the judgment call that you kind of have to make. So what was your point, Scott?
Now, was there any discussion in the CE class about, from a landlord perspective, being um, leaning into this and in the listing narrative, providing information about the size of the rooms,
Hmm.
and whether or not you reference the building code, just saying, hey, this bedroom is, you know, 70 feet, it'll allow one adult or that kind of thing. So you are announcing, information that's unbiased
Hmm.
so that you're avoiding somebody coming in. And even though you're citing the building code, they say, oh, well, they just think you're, against them, and
Yeah.
and then they lodge a complaint and it's
Yeah.
meritless, but you got to deal with it. So was there any discussion about, is that a road that you don't want to go down and trying to announce size and whatnot to try to shape or like educate people like, hey, you
Yeah.
can't put this many people in this property.
The discussion was me, myself, and I in front of the computer screen. But anyway,
Got it. I got it.
yeah, but you got a good point there. And that's what I was saying on that last slide. We got to get on the weeds when we see that these are small bedrooms. So what should we do? We need to measure them. This is a 7 by 8 room. Okay. It's barely big enough for one person. All right. Or a 7 by 9 or something. And then we need to put that in the listing so that we've provided the information that the agent needs to know. Because most agents, I don't think in the MLS are saying, oh, I need to search 4 plus bedroom or 3 plus bedrooms, and they each need to be 10 by 10 big. They go through, but that's where we as the listing agents, we got to help them out. Put those measurements in there so they can see on that one. Yeah. Any other questions on that? Now, the funny thing is, if they're buying the house, it's kind of like these rules don't apply. It's the weirdest thing, you want to
I
buy
was
it,
just
frame it
sitting
about,
here thinking
yeah,
that. I
yeah,
was like, well, they can buy a house
I
and
know.
do it.
Now
So
they
kind of
could
like
get,
Lily
I
was
mean,
talking about, just buy your house. Nobody
yeah,
cares.
Just buy them a house.
I know. Now, I
What do you
mean,
qualify for?
yeah, it doesn't mean that there won't be a housing complaint. Let's say that you
Right.
got a 3 bedroom and they're putting 8 people in there. That can have a housing complaint to the county. And the county can come in and say, hey, you've got too many people in this house.
I've seen that happen in one of the
Yeah.
communities at farm.
Yeah.
Somebody bought the house and it basically turned into almost like a boarding house
Yeah.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Usually that complaint will come when there's a car per person. Yeah,
Mhm.
Melanie. Are you just you're twirling your pen? Okay, got it. All right. I thought you had a question. All
So,
right.
but that's not like if they're buying the house, that's not our responsibility to determine how many people can live there, is there, when they're buying it?
It's not our
I mean,
responsibility,
we
but we
can
need to
tell
say,
them, but
I'd use the same discussion. Just so you know, the building code is,
okay.
1 bedroom, 72 square feet for one, or 70 square feet for one person. Once you get up to a second bedroom, it needs to be 100 square feet. And that's the building code. Boom. I have disclosed it to them. There's no disclosure form on that. It's just I've let them know because I want them to be happy with the house.
Right.
I don't
It's
want them
also
to move in there and
letting,
think they, yeah,
letting them know on resale that, hey, this isn't a legal bedroom. So when you use me to
Hmm.
help you sell the house,
yeah,
even though it may inaccurately be listed as a bedroom in the listing, it's like, well,
yeah.
no, it's not. And
Right, right,
you can use it as a bedroom. I mean,
right.
we see that all the time, but
For sure.
you can't sell it as a legal bedroom.
For sure. All right. So then to the next point, trying to get out of this one. There we go. All right. Here we go. I don't know. Have I lost my, I had a whole,
You've reached
set
the
of,
end of the internet, Anthony.
yeah, did I? Oh, there we go. Here we go. Here we go. Good. All right. So now we're into emotional support. I'm just going to skim through a little bit of this, but then point out the real world issues you may run into on the emotional support. So let's start with here. This is the Virginia Fair Housing Law, which pretty much mirrors um, what you're going to see in the. And I'm going to give you the guys these links. It's going to mirror the federal law, and so that's a good link to have. It does talk about assistance animal and what that means versus an emotional support animal. Then I want to jump to here. This is interesting. This is the actual document from HUD. And this is assessing a person. They have a 19-page document on assessing a person's request to have an animal as a reasonable accommodation under the Fair Housing Act. So let me give you that one. You guys can nerd out on this all you want. On this one, it's very interesting. They obviously lean toward if someone's got a pet, or not a pet, an animal, because they're not a pet. I thought this was interesting. What is a service animal? Under the ADA, a service animal means any dog that is individually trained. Service animals have to be trained, okay, to do work or perform tasks for the benefit of an individual with a disability, including physical, sensory, psychiatric, intellectual. Other species of animals, whether wild or domestic, trained or untrained, are not service animals. They even have an outline here on like, so here's the first question. Is it a dog? No. Okay, it's not a service animal. That was surprising to me because all the classes I've been to say, oh yeah, it could be a bird, it could be this, it could be but this is HUD. I thought that was kind of eye-opening.
Yeah, that's a good what we were talking about yesterday,
Yeah.
right? Because I have one that's got a cat and a dog that are both ESA, and I'm like,
Well, that's emotional support.
like, what could we have a? Oh, that's different. Okay.
Yeah, this is service animal. What we usually would probably call
That's right.
an eye-seeing dog
Or epilepsy
or
seizure.
epilepsy,
Yeah.
right? That's usually, and apparently in the code, in the ADA, Americans with Disability Act, a service animal means a dog. So once they say it's not a dog, it's no longer a service animal in the eyes of HUD. But is it readily apparent that the dog is trained? Yes. Okay. No other questions. Is it not trained? Well, more questions. Is it guiding an individual who's blind, pulling a wheelchair, providing assistance with stability? Then it's trained. It is advisable to limit its inquiries to the following two questions. Is the animal required because of a disability? And what work or tasks has the animal been trained to perform? So I don't want to get too much in the weeds on what this is. I'm going to give this to you, but on page 11, we get into documentation from the internet. Okay. Because this is real world. This is what we run into, right? Here's my card. Some websites sell certificates, registrations, and licensing documents for assistance animals to anyone who answers certain questions and pays a fee. Under the Fair Housing Act, a housing provider may request reliable documentation when an individual requesting a reasonable accommodation has a disability. All right. In HUD's experience, such documentation from the internet is not by itself sufficient to reliably establish that an individual has a non-observable disability or disability related needed for an assistance animal. Not a service animal, but an assistance animal. By contrast, any legitimate licensed healthcare professionals deliver services remotely, including over the internet. One reliable form of documentation is a note from a person's healthcare professional that informs a person's disability. So I wanted to point that out and then show you what they're talking about. Look at this. Supportpets.com. Want to take your pet almost anywhere? Get your ESA. The challenge with this, even the name of their website, in housing are emotional support animals and service animals pets.
No.
No, they're not. In the code, they're not pets. But this website is saying, hey, don't leave your pets behind. Let's get them a card. Want to take your pet almost anywhere? Look at this. Take your pet with you in public with confidence. Avoid costly pet fees and rental housing. Fast approval. No doctor visit or phone calls required. This doesn't work, according to what HUD just said. But this website is collecting a bunch of money off of these people who want to say Rover is an emotional support animal without any doctors.
Well, the other way this works, Anthony, is either landlords that aren't represented or agents representing landlords that don't know what the rules are regarding assistance animals and ESAs.
Yeah.
And saying, "Oh, you've got an ESA. Oh, well, I've got to allow you to rent this." And that's, as you'll probably talk about, that's a different
Yeah.
that's a different category.
Right. Here's another one, the US Service Animals.org, the official US Service Animal Support. Now, I like this one. It says register your service animal, emotional support animal, or apply for a letter from a licensed mental health. This one seems more legit. They're trying to deal with, you got service animals, you got emotional support. Do you need to hook up with a doctor? They're going down the narrow path. I appreciate this. Then Charlie, the dog, gets a little certificate. Okay. Want to take your pet almost anywhere? That's the same one we had before. This one's good. I'll send you this one. It's how to spot a fake ESA letter, which I'm looking for a printed letter from a therapist on letterhead, and I want a license number. Okay. The letter says they can take their animal anywhere. ESA still have many restrictions. This site says that this letter has to be renewed every year. I have not seen documentation in the code on that. And the article it took me to was just another website saying that. I'm looking for it now. Yeah, this one. U.S. Dog Registry, signed ESA letter. Federal law requires individuals with emotional support to provide a valid letter within the past 12 months from a doctor or mental health professional. It may be requested from your building manager or landlord. You'll receive a link via email. So these guys are saying that this is required, and the U.S. Dog Registry is using this as a means of helping people out with that. Okay? Any questions so far on this? Any comments?
I can tell you when I rent out my personal family's rental,
Yeah.
I take the application with the biggest dog because those people are so grateful.
That's a pretty cool idea.
And then they have to show it when I list it for rent again because
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have to be there with the dog. And
Yeah.
it's
Is your dog 100 pounds? I'm sorry, it's too small. Yeah. Boy, that would get calls. Big dogs are welcome. That would be pretty cool.
Small dogs need not apply.
Yeah.
Yeah, big dogs preferred.
Any
Yeah.
dogs that could get caught in a rat trap, not allowed.
Well, I agree with you. I have two big dogs, right, Lily? And the big dogs are much more potty trained than the little ones.
Yeah.
Most
I
of
know.
the time.
I have the two little dogs that are more annoying.
Yeah.
If you can fit it in your handbag, do not apply.
There you go. That's a great tagline.
No rat dogs allowed.
That's not a dog. I don't
Yeah.
know what that is, but
So here's what we have: the verification of disability. And my challenges is not so much with the consumer who just doesn't understand, and this is all monitored state by state. So what they're getting in Tennessee may be different than what we're allowing in Virginia. But this is a rental form, verification of disability. It's an NVAR form, K1380. And first, it's a request by the tenant and the, instructions. And then the next 2 pages have to be filled out by their verifier. Now, sometimes they will take this information and have their verifier I would submit to keep it on the high and the clean and high. Say, look, you need to send this to your person. I want to add on this form because I don't know where your form came from. Well, it's the same information. Good. Fill it out. And then what I'll do is I'll give you a filled out copy of it. And then you can show this to any other person that needs to have this done. You got a verifier name, which is the therapist. What's their title? Firm name or practice group. Phone. What's the address? Describe the nature of your relationship with the requester. Are you providing this verification via online or telemedicine? Yes or no? If it's yes, you must be validly licensed in both your home state as well as in the state where you provide medical services to the requester, usually Virginia, in accordance with applicable Virginia Board of Medicine guidance. Please complete the following. What's your license? What's your license number? State of the license where you provide it. Do they have this? And they fill out all this information. They send it to you. All right. Now, this is the Board of Health of Medicine in Virginia. So I've only once had to actually check a licensee out on here, and they were a licensee. They lived in Florida, but they were a licensee in Virginia. So under public resources, you can do the license lookup. You'll need their license number. If you don't have their license number, you'll need the last 4 digits of their social to go any further. Okay. So the verifier, you can use that with the Virginia medical license board. And then this is the assistance animal notice and its approval or denial. I'm either unable to verify that you have a disability. I'm unable to verify that this relates to your disability. I'm able to confirm the tenant applicant has a therapeutic relationship with the verifier. So you give this to them, they don't ever send it back and say, look, we're got to deny this application because your application is incomplete now, which goes along with the rental application notice. The applicant's offer and or application is incomplete, misleading, or incorrect. So this one's different than the assistance animal notice. Okay. And I'll leave it up to you guys to look that up and do a little more reading on that. All right. So that's what I got today on the area of room size, how to measure that, how to talk to landlords and tenants about the size of places, about the U.S. code and what's required there. And then we talked about the animal assistance animal versus a service animal, emotional support animal. They are animals. They are not pets. If they could, yeah, I have 2 pets, but one's an assistant pet, then maybe that person's not really dealing with an understanding of what that means to us, according to FHA. The links I've given you, click them, download them, put them in a rental file, and just have them there so you can pull them out to have a informed discussion. I remember there was an agency they're active now. There's an agency, I believe it's Arlington or Alexandria, and they constantly are harassing, and I'm sorry, but that's what they're doing. They're trying to force non-required landlords to take their clients, and they bully the landlords by quoting these things. And I mean, when I'm like the broker, I'm going like, oh, it sounds right. I said, let me get back to you. Called the board. The attorneys at NVAR said, man, we keep running into this group and they are wrong. And so they gave me the explanation of why the folks didn't have to use that VA or the Section 8 group in Virginia. A little bit different in Maryland.
I think it's the Alexandria Redevelopment Housing Authority.
Yep, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, I had
They're
to.
very assertive
Yeah, when they want to be, and then they're non-responsive when
when you
they don't
need
want
them.
to be.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. All right.
Anthony, I joined about 5 minutes late. You talked about how to measure a room. Is there anything other than the four, length by width,
That's it.
including, okay,
Yeah. Just
including,
the main walls, you just want to get that in there. Anyway, Melanie, you had a question and then Lily.
Yes. Is a lease considered fully executed if you have not paid the security deposit yet?
No. The security
Okay, so the
deposit's kind
tenant,
of like the EMD in the rental world,
mhm,
but you've given me nothing. You've given me no consideration. That's what it's called, is consideration.
okay,
Unless the
so
landlord
so
waives it. I mean, the landlord could waive it, but you're looking for that money. They sign it,
okay. Well, I
don't give
mean,
money. We're not
mhm,
done yet. Yeah.
Would that be
okay,
the same if they had given the 1 month's rent, but not the security deposit yet?
Again, it depends on what the landlord and the tenant have agreed to. Like sometimes people say, look, I got the money. I'm waiting on my deposit to come from my other one. Can you let me pay this in 2 installments? And landlord says, sure.
Mm.
So if they do
yeah.
do that, put that in writing. Get that nailed down. Don't just go by word of mouth and handshake. Lily, you had a
Well,
question?
mine is,
Oh,
oh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Melanie.
oh,
What's
sorry.
something
Well,
follow
mine
up?
is a situation where if the tenant and landlord can't agree on something, the tenant is going to want to back out. Her security deposit is not due until April 18th, but they signed the lease earlier this week. So I imagine if they can't agree on something,
Mhm.
and if the landlord's like, okay, I'll release you, like, then that's it. But he would have to do that, right? Since
Yeah, I mean, it's going to get messy there because they've already signed a lease. But since the money hasn't crossed the line, I would submit that no consideration has been gathered, and therefore either one of them could cancel it at that point.
okay,
That would be maybe someone would want to argue with me on that point. Like, well, there's no money. Those are my eggs. You didn't pay for them. Okay, they're not your eggs.
okay,
All right, Lily.
thanks.
Okay, so I have a rental that the tenant moved out and the house reeks of spices.
Mm,
How, I mean, we're going to take some money out of the security deposit for that and other things that they did.
mm,
But
mm.
now I'm going to be relisting it for rent, and they're not wanting to have somebody who's going to be cooking with smelly
Yeah. Is
spices.
this Virginia?
It is.
Okay, good. All right. Make sure not North Carolina.
No, no, no. It's in Sterling.
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I'd
How am
have
I
to
going
look
to
a little
handle
bit deeper at the lease to see what it says about care of the property. Because if you are doing something, it'd be like if you're barbecuing out back and the smoke is always coming in the house, you're damaging the house. So there's some spices that they permeate drywall.
Well, and
I mean,
we know
really, they
that, and we
do.
got the handyman fixing it, but now, they don't want to rent if somebody's, how can I say in the new lease, you
Yeah.
can't be damaging the property.
I'm thinking, well, and this is what I read a piece in HUD and Virginia. All they're looking for, let's say special accommodation. What they're looking for is for the landlord to not outright say, I'm sorry, you use turmeric and I don't like the smell of turmeric in my house. And I don't know what, I just hear that on the radio a lot right now. And so I know it leaves a big smell in the back. I don't want people using turmeric in my house. Okay. But what if you say, look, if you use these rack of spices, you must have an aerator in the property. Now I'm trying to I want to give you the house, but you can't smell it up. Um, I mean, we do have in Virginia, you can tell people, look, no smoking in the property.
Yeah, it's as similar as no smoking, but
Yeah.
what can I put in there? And I mean,
Oof.
it's a certain ethnic group.
Yeah,
Oh, I know. Yeah, I mean,
that's the first thing that
you
I
ain't got
thought
to
of.
hide it. That's exactly what's going on. It's a
Yeah.
specific cuisine that we're talking about that leaves a very deep aroma in the property and will get absorbed into the walls.
And the security deposit isn't going to cover the amount
No,
of
no. So
sales.
I'm gonna delay my answer on that one because this is being recorded, and I'm gonna talk with an attorney. So Scott, what do you think?
I'm punting.
Yeah, okay. So let me talk with NVAR and say this is a real issue. What do you do with that? Yeah, I know. Yeah, I won't get
Or
into that, but there's some.
and is there a way that because this happens to be a cooking spice situation. There
Mhm.
are other actors in a property that could have, odors.
Yeah.
And so do you make it um non-specific to, or cooking is given as an example among other
Mhm.
things that if you
Yeah.
do these things, um, I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what you find out.
Yeah, I'm
That's a
gonna talk
tricky
with NVAR and
situation.
say, hey, you or someone at NAR, I need a reading on. We've got smoking covered because it's gonna be why? Because it's gonna reek of smoke. That's why. Well, what about these spices? I mean, I can think of a couple. I don't know what the spice is in Indian food. We love it. So, but we don't cook it all the time. I know kimchi. My
Mm.
wife loves kimchi, but that there are kimchi refrigerators that can leave an aroma up there. Some of those really heavily spices. I don't know. I gotta find out. So how do you do that without being discriminatory? Because that would be like, well, that's this culture or this nationality.
Or what if you
That's the
were a
problem.
painter and you were using some high VOC paint
Yeah.
and turpentine, things like that that
Yeah.
could. So I'm just
Yeah, I
wondering.
understand. The challenge we have here in this one is that we are specifically talking about a culture's cuisine. So there we go. All
Let's
right.
just don't get any applications.
Yeah, you gotta. Yeah, that's it's a tough thing because I know that I mean, and states are different. I think it was it Sherry that shared with me the whole list of dogs not allowed in Prince George's County. Not every county has that list. Or was that Melanie? Somebody gave me a list this last week.
I did. It was
Yeah,
from the insurance
Well, can you
companies.
share it with me, please?
yeah,
No,
yeah.
it was from the insurance companies, a list
Right,
of dogs.
right.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll share that out. So it
And I
wasn't
know
the
pit
county; it
bulls,
was the insurance
but I didn't
company.
know there were others.
Oh gosh, there's like a whole big list.
German
Chow's German
Shepherd, all that.
Shepherd was interesting that that's on there.
German
Oh,
shepherds, really?
yeah. All right. Anything else?
Oh.
Anthony, I have a
Yeah,
question. Can we change the topic from rentals and all the stuff
yeah,
to the news that just came out from NVAR about the changes in the clear cooperation?
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to get an idea of what are these changes, because I'm not quite sure I understood it from all these NVAR things. It says
Yeah.
something about.
All I read was that it's not going to change our practices, but I need to read the whole thing. I haven't read the whole thing yet, but it did say this is not going to change the way that we do real estate.
Well, it did say something about like there was a term that I can't think of it right now, and I don't have the email in front of me.
Yeah.
What was it?
There'll be a new status, but that's going to be uh,
Yeah,
NAR said the individual MLSs have to develop their own procedures for whatever they're doing with this status,
What
which
was it again? Clear what?
clear cooperation, but it talks about some sort of a status that the seller could allow to like basically advertise it off MLS. But there's like this new term that I wasn't quite sure what it meant.
and then yeah, and again, the big takeaway that I got was there's no change until the individual MLS has come up with some policy for
Yeah.
their subscribers.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of, I mean, questions about, okay, it'll be a new status in the MLS, but it won't go to IDX. It could be in the MLS and searchable in the MLS, but it wouldn't be syndicated, was one theorization of what an MLS could do. So
Yeah, I just put the NVAR link in there. It's not much of an article here, but it's an article of links. And then the links go to the Bright Off MLS policy, support brightmls.com article, off MLS questions and answers. So, um,
Delayed marketing period. That's what it's called.
delayed marketing period.
Yeah, so it says before we share the FAQs, I got an email from Kevin Sears at the NAR.
Got
It
it.
says before we share the FAQs, I want to reiterate the purpose and value behind this new policy. The multiple listing options for sellers policy promotes individual choice while reinforcing a system of openness for all. During the MLS established delayed marketing period, a delayed marketing exempt listing is fully available to other MLS participants and may be advertised in any way the seller and their agents see fit. This could include yard signs, posting to a website, or any other of the many strategies to market a property for sale. So,
I just put a link to the NAR article that came out 3 days ago. They don't call it delayed marketing in the headline, but it's about this new policy. Yeah,
sounds an
MLS
awful.
is determined delay period. NAR will not dictate the length of the delayed marketing window. It's going to engage with before this. Okay.
so I guess, I mean, the way I understand it, and I could be completely wrong, that you're putting on the MLS, but it's a delayed period. So, like, what does that mean? Is it like office exclusive sort of thing? Like, I'm so confused by it.
Terrible.
That's how I read it. I mean, again, nothing changes until Bright decides whether or not to add or change what we have right now. Bright may say, hey, this is what we have as office exclusive limited marketing.
Yeah. Can y'all see this chart or this infographic?
Actually, I just pulled down the FAQs and says, can a delayed marketing exempt listing be shown to potential buyers during the delayed marketing period? Yes, MLS participants and subscribers may arrange showings and tour the property subject
Yeah.
to the seller's instructions.
Right. What I asked Mariah this question directly and said, so what I understand, this was a few days when she came to the office. I said, is my understanding correct? I'm in an office exclusive. Anybody can walk through that property that wants to, as long as it's not in the MLS, and I can sell it in that. She goes, yes, you can. Anybody can see it. Brand X can come through. Any other agent with their buyers can come through. I said, then if I take it off of office exclusive, can I put it in coming soon before I go active? She says, yes, you can. So I asked her directly on those items to make sure that we knew that the path from office exclusive, which we keep calling off market, it's just office exclusive. It's not off the market, it's just not in the MLS, but that it can then go from office exclusive to coming soon. What's coming soon? As long as you want. But coming soon is in the MLS that everyone can see, and then it can go to active. Yeah, Melanie.
Sorry. So for an office exclusive, if you want to create a landing page for that property, like off your KW website, can you do that? Because I went to try to set one up for an office exclusive that I have coming. And, it said that it had to be in the MLS in order to, I guess, pull the info over to create the site.
That's because
so I put it in the MLS.
Yeah, it's because that specific office exclusive function, not office exclusive, landing page function on command is pulling from the MLS.
Pulled from the MLS.
Right.
Yeah.
But
So
you can create
entered it.
Yeah, but you can create a landing page that's not connected to the MLS. Because you can create landing
using
pages.
our command sites.
Using
your
command website. It's just a landing. You could do a landing page for a flyer that you put together. You get what I'm saying? Let's say you do
Hmm.
a flyer for the backpack collection. You can make a landing
Hmm.
page on your website through KW that people can go to on that. So you could do the same thing as a landing page for the information on your office market listing. It's just not going to be through the MLS pulling it in and making it, active and all that kind of stuff, interactive.
Okay, because I entered it as an office exclusive in MLS, but
Mhm.
I wasn't sure if it would pull from there
No,
or the only way it pulls is if it's on market.
no, the office exclusives are unsearchable by agents and consumers.
Okay.
Sheila
What
and
Okay.
I get one, and whenever I get an update on it, I send it out. We've got one now so we haven't sent out one now since about the 20th because the latest one that we got came on mail on March the 19th.
Anthony,
Okay.
my reading of what NER said would be in between office exclusive and coming soon. It would be an option potentially where it would be in the MLS, searchable in the MLS, but it doesn't syndicate. And the premise was, well, if your seller client doesn't want, neighbors and everybody else to know because it pops up on Zillow and Redfin and et cetera. Which, if
Yeah,
that was the case, that would actually be coming soon, and or you could show. The problem with Office Exclusive right now is it's wonderful that you can show it, but the only people that know about it are agents that you communicate with.
right. And I
It
see
was
what you're saying. And
searchable.
this is now saying, because right now I can't search office exclusive. And what this is saying is, okay, there's office exclusive, then there's delayed marketing exempt listing. And now the agents can go in there. They can search it, but it doesn't get, like you said, it's not distributed on the internet. I know I gotta go to a seminar on this one.
If that's what Bright ends up doing, I actually think that's that would be a nice
We
option
probably
to have.
will. I mean, we
I think,
like to give
yeah,
everyone as many tools as possible.
yeah, I think that just gives us another
Yeah.
approach to
My
marketing.
question is, if it's in delayed marketing period, am I allowed to show it?
Hello.
Yeah. Shannon? Hey, Shannon, if you can mute.
Okay.
There we go. All right.
The NAR stuff seemed to indicate yes, but I think that's determined ultimately by the MLS, what they, but that's, again, if it gives us more options, particularly if we can still show it in this delayed marketing and then still have the option to go to coming soon and active at
Yeah.
our discretion would be, I think, pretty good in terms
Yeah.
of,
See what I'm seeing on this top part of this graph, office exclusive period in the yellow bar. There's a trigger point there on public marketing. You put a for sale sign in the yard. Now you got one business day. Now you got to advertise it through the MLS. That's not what we were told earlier.
yeah, that's right. That's well, that's surprising. Left hand and right hand don't say the same thing.
Well, hey, look, we knew this was going to be a roller coaster
Yeah.
ride as they got to figure it out. I'm not blaming anybody. It's
No,
just like,
it's
okay, because they released these new rules and then say, all right, how's that going to work? And now we've had 6 months. Oh, that's how that works. Okay, we need to change this again.
or they
And I
don't
think,
actually read all of the language in the rules and see how they
yeah,
connect with each other. So,
yeah, yeah,
um,
Well, I guess I'm frustrated because they keep changing the rules. First said,
yeah,
this is a strict rules, don't do it. And then a couple months later, they go and completely
yeah.
switch it. And it's like, well, now
And there's
it's a
not a big
different.
announcement. Now at least we got a big announcement. But I think this graph kind of tells the story here. Office exclusive, great. We're doing what we're doing. But this public marketing trigger, like, wait a minute. You told me I could publicly market and not have to put it in the MLS. Now you're telling me once I put a sign in the yard, I got one day and I got to put it in the MLS.
now I presume that Bright will keep the language that they say because they have that language in, but then there's the the comma, unless otherwise
Yeah.
agreed with the selling clients.
Right. And Anya, I'm going to have to look at my email from MVAR this week because I'm sure I got that. I just didn't read through it. I just saw the headline. It's not going to change the way you do business. Like, okay, I'll come back to it later. Anyway,
Fun.
all right, folks.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you so much. Y'all have a good one. Take care.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.